1 in 3. That's how many American men will face physical violence, sexual assault, or stalking by an intimate partner. 1 in 3 women worldwide will endure physical or sexual abuse, most often by someone they know. But domestic abuse isn't just bruises. It's manipulation, it's fear, it's control that seeps into every part of your life. I'm Ingrid Dutton, and I survived it. Then I created 1 in 3 so no one else has to suffer in silence. Each week, we break that silence together. Occasionally joined by survivors, loved ones, and experts, we talk about the pain, yes, but also about the healing, resilience, and the fight to reclaim your life. This podcast is more than awareness, it's a lifeline. And a reminder, you are seen, you are heard, you are never alone. Search for 1 in 3 wherever you get your podcasts, because every voice matters and every story deserves to be heard.
This is a history of April Fool's Day according to History.com. It dates back to 1582 when France switched from the Julian to the Gregorian calendar. The Julian calendar, New Year's, begins with the spring equinox around April 1st. The Gregorian calendar is January 1st and continued, and those people that continued to celebrate around April 1st were called April Fools. Pranks were played, which included paper fish being placed on people's backs and being referred to as, excuse my French accent, poisson d'avril, or April fish. It was meant to symbolize a young fish that was easily caught, aka they were gullible. It's also linked to hilaria, which I was like, oh, that sounds like hilarious. An ancient Roman festival where people dressed up in disguises and made fun of other citizens and magistrates. It's also tied to the vernal equinox when Mother Nature, quote unquote, fools people with her weather. Lots of pranks have been played on this day. A couple of note, Taco Bell pulled out the pranks in that they bought the Liberty Bell and they're renaming it the Liberty Bell.
Wait, I didn't hear a difference.
You didn't? Taco Bell said that they were buying the Liberty Bell and naming it. Oh, I'm so sorry. The Taco Bell. They're renaming it Taco Bell.
I was like, I don't see a difference between liberty and liberty.
No, there's and then another one is Nixon said he was going to run again. It wasn't really Nixon. It was an actor portraying Nixon. And he actually had a commercial that said he was going to run again in like the mid 80s. So those are a couple of pranks that have been played on and in name of April Fools.
Good morning, Sixth Sister.
Good morning. I need to apologize to everyone. I have the flu. I'm taking some medication right now. So this may be an interesting episode.
Just to follow suit of the interesting intro.
Oh, that was hard. That was really hard to read. Just imagine how many tries that one took.
How many deleted deletes?
Ooh. So do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I don't care. What do you want to do? You're sick.
I did want to say something. I know this is coming after April Fool's Day, but Jamie's story was so important. We wanted to coincide it with the transplant day. So
Living Donor Day.
That's what I meant. Living Donor Day. So we're doing this week. And we also want to give a shout out to our cousin Kylie brought some awareness for us. And so we also want to say that it is Autism Awareness Month, Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and the month of the military child. So want to give a shout out to those awarenesses.
I didn't know we were doing shout outs. I would have had my beep, beep, beep.
I'm so glad you don't have that. Don't ever use that.
Right around the corner.
Okay. I will go first. I'd like to go first so I can sit back and relax.
Okay, fine. Well, okay. So since you're going first, explain what we're doing.
Absolutely. So what we thought we would do is, I don't know if anyone ever watched the show. I remember watching the show called Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction from back in the 90s, mid 90s. And so we decided to cover I'm covering an episode from that. Ninger's covering an episode from that. And my episode was 5 stories, and some of them are true and some of them are fiction. And you guys get to decide, is this truth or is this fiction? And I will say 3 of mine are truth and 2 are fiction.
You shouldn't say that.
Well, no, because now they can try to figure out which 3 and which 2.
It could have been all truth or all false.
Do they do that?
I don't know, but they could.
Okay, well, I let them know ahead of time. You can let them know what yours are or not. And if you stay till the end of the episode, I just might tell you what they are. So the first story in my episode is about a mummy. There's a gentleman named Marcel Ducroix, and he approaches some kind of museum and says that he is Princess Ferentiti in her sarcophagus, and she's an authentic mummy, and he wants to sell her to the museum for the mummy collection. That's that word? The curator spent hours authenticating the mummy, and he's like, okay, I think it's real, but Marcel Ducroix won't give out details how he got the mummy. And it was really weird because he had a persistent cough throughout the whole entire thing. So the curator decided that the mummy still needed to be examined by an embalming specialist. So during this time, they kept the mummy in the museum, and they paid a deposit or whatever to Marcel Ducroix. So there's a cleaning lady in the museum. Her name is Mandy. And she's cleaning, and she saw a woman who was floating in the air. And she ran and she told the curator what she saw. And he didn't believe her. He brushed it off. He's like, oh, okay, sure. And she ended up quitting. 1 week later, no incidents, nothing happened. And then the security guard saw a floating woman again. Security guard told the curator, I saw this woman floating. She was beautiful. She was blonde. She was just floating there. And the curator actually believed the security guard this time because he'd worked there for 15 years. And he didn't think that security guard, could be spoofed like a cleaning lady. Sorry, that annoyed me a little in the show. The director didn't believe the curator or the security guard. And then he's like, I have to go to dinner. And he just left the curator and the museum alone. So the curator's there doing some business. And all of a sudden he felt a chill in the air. And then he saw a floating woman in his office. And he said, who are you? And what do you want from me? And she raised her hand up and pointed at a deep gash in her forehead and beckoned the curator to follow her to the sarcophagus. And there in the sarcophagus was the woman. Her head was unwrapped, and it was a woman that they saw floating. Right away, the curator called the police, and they ended up arresting Marcel Ducroix, the man who sold them the mummy, for murder. Where was the mummy's body? Did the lady really resemble the murdered woman? Is this a true story? We just don't know.
I'm going to say that one's facts. All right, go ahead.
Story number 2. It was titled The Perfect Record. So there's a security guard named Vic who takes great pride in his job. He has had 15 years of a perfect record. No vandalisms, no break-ins. His job is so low-key that during his on his shift, after he does his rounds, he sits and he reads books for self-improvement. And so Vic is deciding, he's training a newbie that started. And he's taking the newbie through their suite of stuff, and he's like, we may be under construction, but this vault, it still works. And we're guarding a lot of expensive computer secrets. They'll be worth a lot on the black market. And Vic actually designed the alarm system himself. And he told the kid this. So they're sitting there. Vic is sitting there at the security office, like with the desks and the keyboard and everything like that. And he's reading a book. And the new guy comes back after checking the doors. And then he's like, all the doors are secure. Vic's like, okay, did you, shove it with your shoulder? And all of a sudden behind Vic comes a guy with a gun and points it to Vic's head. And the newbie's like, 15 years, ha, your perfect record is over tonight. So the newbie was in on the break-in. And he already had all the keys to all the vaults and everything because Vic had just trained him. So they duct tape Vic to the chair and they have him bound and gagged. And the robbers go into the vault and they disable the alarm, and then the robbers go into the vault to take all the really expensive computer stuff. Vic is sitting there getting mad and mad and mad, and he looks at his book. It doesn't show the title of the book yet, but he looks at his book, and then all of a sudden he looks like he's concentrating. And as he's concentrating, all these light bulbs start popping. And at first the robbers are like, oh, must be something weird with the electrical system because they're building this building again or revamping the building. And then all of a sudden the robbers get freaked out and they're like, all right, we should go. And as they're running through this passageway, all the light bulbs just start popping and popping and popping. And then there's like the big long ones, like the big fluorescent ones with like the tubes in them. Well, one of them falls down to the ground and kind of knocks the robbers down on the ground. The lights kept going on and off. And then all of a sudden it flashes to about 5 minutes more. The police have the robbers in handcuffs. And the police are like, we never would have stopped by if the lights weren't going on and off like we saw. And so they take the guys away. And then all of a sudden it pans down to Vic's book, which is called The Power of Telekinesis. So Vic looks very happy and he says to the camera, I still have my perfect record. So did the crooks actually mess with the power when they were messing with the alarm system that made the lights go on and off? Or did Vic actually use his new telekinesis power? We shall see.
You're not like verbatiming this guy, are you?
No.
Oh, okay.
Like the guy that did the show?
Yeah.
No, I just wrote notes and I'm using my memory.
No, but you sound just as cheesy as he does.
Oh, well, I made myself. I wrote the questions like that. Okay. So this next one is about a high school student named Melissa. So it's so cheesy. They start off in the car. She's with another couple, her friend and her boyfriend in the front seat. She's in the back seat and she's complaining about how her boyfriend gets the flu and just happens to get sick every Friday night. So they're teasing her like, yeah, we don't think he's that into you. But she's like, no, he really is. He just happens to get sick every Friday. And so as they're driving, the couple in the front seat, they drive by a cemetery and they hold their breath. And so she starts making fun of them for how superstitious they are. And then she starts complaining about how boring this town is. So then the boyfriend driving the car is like, hey, I'll bet you $100 to stay in the cemetery where Wilbur Lister, who is a serial killer who murdered 22 teenage girls, is buried. Melissa said she doesn't believe the story. And she's like, absolutely. I'll go stay next to his graveyard headstone for 2 hours for $100. And when she's done, she's supposed to, I don't know where this knife came from. Like all of a sudden the boyfriend pulls like this machete looking knife out of the front seat. And he's like, you have to stab this into the grave so we know that you were there. She's like, all right, fine, I'll do that. No problem. So she's sitting there for 2 hours. Nothing really goes on. She actually has a cell phone. So it's in the age of cell phone time. She calls her friend. She's like, I'm good. I'm not scared. It's fine. And then with 15 minutes to go left in her 2 hours, Melissa starts hearing a voice saying, you're not going to leave here. And she like looks around and she calls her friend. She's like, where's your boyfriend? I can't remember his name. Like, where is he? She's like, he's sitting right next to me. And she's like, well, tell him it's not funny. And she's like, he's sitting here right next to me. And so she hangs up the phone and then she hears another voice like saying, you're not going to leave. You're here with me. And so she calls her friend again. And then the boyfriend's like, don't forget to stab the grave with the knife. And so she stabs the grave with the knife and then tries to take off running. And she can't for some reason. Like she's stuck. It doesn't show why. It just shows that she's stuck. And so you can hear this voice and you can see her trying to run away, but she's just like stuck on the ground. And then it flashes to the police going to the grave sites. And Melissa's body is found on the grave with no marks. And the cause of death was that she died of fright. But then the cops see that the knife was actually stuck through her coat. So that's the reason why she couldn't actually get off the ground, was because the knife was stuck through her coat. So did she actually put the knife there, or did Lister put the knife there to make it look like she died that way? This one, I like this one. So there's a detective walking up to, you got a call for there's a murder. He walks up to this second floor apartment. There's a gentleman dead in there, and the apartment was deadbolted from the inside. The gentleman died from a broken neck, and a body was on the balcony. So the theory is that someone climbed up 2 stories on the outside, broke the neck, and then climbed back down the 2 stories. So it was an unscreened balcony. on the second floor. So this guy, he was actually a pretty bad guy. He was the murdered victim was a bad guy. He was charged with murdering his wife, but he got off because his legal team. And he always used to like say in the detective's face, like, I'm the best legal team ever. You're not going to get me. And he actually got off for killing his wife, for supposedly killing his wife. So the detective actually ends up talking to 3 witnesses. One lady heard a man screaming and saw a giant man as tall as a balcony with long flowing black hair and overcoat, and saw him shaking the victim like a rag doll. So then he talks to the second witness, or the second and the third witness were 2 men. They saw same thing. A giant man, dark clothing, long hair. And so if according to what they would say was true, this man would have to be 18 feet tall in order to stand up and reach that second balcony up there, an 18-foot tall man. So then they take a shoe print that they found in the garden, and the guy's like, well, whoever did this would have to weigh 500 pounds. So it'd have to be 18-foot tall, 500-pound man. The witnesses were all legit. The detective did background checks on them. And then he went up and he looked back at the victim's apartment again, trying to get, a visual of the killing. He was thinking about how the victim had a lot of enemies. The dead wife was actually a performer in Las Vegas, and she had a quote unquote colorful past, is what they said. And the detective started looking through an old album of pictures and articles from her circus days. Marie, which was the dead wife's name, and her 3 brothers were acrobats. They traveled all throughout Europe, and she actually quit the acrobat show to marry the murdered victim. And then as the detective walks by the wall, there's this poster on the wall that showed her brothers standing one on top of another. And it was called the Famous Human Tower. So the brothers were in Italy, and he's like, should I extradite them or should I let this go? The detective decided to let it go, and he did not extradite the brothers. So were the people hallucinating this 18-foot man, or do you think it was the brothers? Or was it even true? Is this even a true story? So there's an old man, and it's called Beauville was the name of the town. And there's a man walking through the town in a suit. It was torn and full of grass. And he kept saying, they towed my car. They towed my car. And the city of Beauville had a population of 304 people. So it's a very small town. And the guy in the raggedy looking suit, like he was dirty and like there was rips. It looked like he'd been through just craziness. There was 2 old timers sitting outside, and he walks up to the old timers and started talking to them. And all he said was, they towed my car. They towed my car. The old timers asked him to move along. He's like, we can't help you, son. We're retired. They said that he looked like he was attacked by a pack of dogs. And everyone that day started talking about the man in the fancy suit who was talking to himself, but no one actually talked to him or tried to help him. All of a sudden, a little boy comes out of his front house and asks the guy why he was so dirty. And the man in the suit was like, they towed my car. They towed my car. I need to get something out of the trunk. And the boy's like, oh, well, if your car was towed, I'll take you to the only tow company in town. So he took him over to Wally. Wally was the mechanic in town. And he's like, oh, I actually just pulled a car out of the river earlier today. And he's like, is that your car, sir? And he walked him over to this vehicle. And the man in the suit's like, I need to get something out of the trunk. I need to get something out of the trunk. And I was like, all right, man, it's going to cause damage. Like trying to say, like, I'm not going to be responsible for the damage done to your car. And so Wally went and grabbed a crowbar, starts opening the trunk, and he pops open the trunk, and water just starts pouring out like a waterfall. And so they all kind of step back, and Wally's standing close enough to the trunk, and he tells the little boy to stand back. And then all of a sudden, the little boy says, where's my friend? Where did he go? And then Wally points to the trunk and says, your friend is in there. The man in the suit was in the trunk of the car. Was it his twin? How did he end up showing up there in the first place? There was something of note. He did have gambling debts. So was it organized crime death? Who knows? Or was it even a true story? We don't know.
My goodness, you are so obnoxious.
So I'll tell the outcome of my stories after yours, I guess.
Oh, no, I think you have to do it now because otherwise people might forget the stories.
Oh, okay. Well, do you want to bring in on what you think is?
Yeah, just do a quick recap. First story is what? Which
first story is The Mummy.
That one's true.
There is. So I noticed the wording that they actually said in the show that they were inspired by actual events. So I don't think it's like a dead on. Yes, a
Okay.
similar story took place. What about the security guard and telekinesis?
No, false.
That one's actually true.
Oh, I was going to
Yep.
say true. Okay.
Okay, what about the girl in the graveyard with the knife and the jacket?
True.
Fiction.
Oh, come
Urban
on.
legends. What about the giant? I wrote giant murder. What about the giant murder?
True.
True. Yes. Get out. What about the towed car?
False.
False.
I
Yep.
think it's because I know that because I was trying to remember. You said 3 true, 2 false.
Ah, poop. I guess I shouldn't have. Yeah, good point. All right. Fair enough.
So I'm not going to tell you. I have 5 stories as well. And they changed the host.
Did they?
Yes. Who did you have? I had Jonathan Frakes.
I don't remember his name, but mine was season 2, episode 7.
Did he have a beard?
Yes.
Okay. Mine is season 3, episode 3.
Oh, it must have been the same guy unless they switched.
I don't know. I don't know when they switched. I think this ran what did we see? 1997 to 2002?
No, I think it was like 97 to 96 to 99.
Oh, anyway. I also have to say the acting in these is superb.
It is pretty spectacular.
Okay, so my first one, there is a wife with her husband, Jerry, because he's the only one who had a name in this one. They had recently gotten married, and for their honeymoon, they decided to drive from Gary, Indiana to LA. And at some point along the way, they decided to stop to get some lunch. And because they're honeymooners, they have no money. They packed food, and they're like in this lovely little grassy area next to like a lake. And they're having peanut butter and jellies. And as they're having their lovely picnic, Jerry notices a 1944 Barton motorcycle laying in the weeds. He got very excited and he went to go check it out. And she said, "No, that's really weird. Don't go." So then he walks over to the motorcycle and he picks it up and he's like, "Wow, it's like in new condition. And this is really weird. The license plate is from 1944. So it's like it was never renewed." And then the wife notices that there's some blood on the front fender. And Jerry said, "Oh, don't worry about that. They probably just hit a deer or something." So,
Sure.
But otherwise, the motorcycle's in perfect condition. So then Jerry said, "You know what? I wonder if there's some gas still in the gas tank." That's what it's called. And he said, "I wonder if it will start. Let me see." So he starts the motorcycle and his wife is like, "What are you doing, Jerry? No, don't do that. That's so weird." And he said, I want to take this for a spin." So he takes off and he starts driving. And he's driving along this back road and there's this covered bridge that he decides to go drive across the bridge. Well, suddenly there is a blonde woman who looks quite distraught standing there. And he starts yelling, no, get out of the way. Kind of, oh gosh, what was that movie called? With Mike Myers. Yeah, baby.
Austin Powers?
Austin Powers, yes. You know that when this steamroller or whatever is coming toward the guy and he's like,
Zamboni.
Yeah. So kind of the same thing. Like she's on the other side of the bridge and he's screaming like, "No, get out of the way." But she's off to the side. She's not even, and it's a motorcycle. Anyway, he hits her and he goes flying off the motorcycle and his wife comes running up and she's screaming. He's screaming, "I think I broke my leg." They call the paramedics, and as a paramedic is assessing him, they recant the story to him. And like, I know it sounds crazy, completely crazy. and it's not believable, right? And he looked at them and he said, it actually is believable because there's a soldier that borrowed this similar motorcycle 54 years ago to the day to visit his girlfriend. He was home and borrowed it from his friend and went to go visit her. Well, while he was driving, he lost control of the motorcycle and he hit her, killing both of them.
Oh.
I forgot to tell you that once the wife got to the husband, they looked and the motorcycle and the woman were both gone. And so the paramedic proceeds to say that every single year that motorcycle is found by a couple, but no one has ever been able to actually get on the motorcycle and ride it away until Jerry did. And that's because somebody always catches them beforehand and like stops them. So they were hoping that by enacting the entire thing that perhaps they freed the two spirits. Okay. Story number 2. There's a cute old guy named Leon who is 65 years old and he owns a Southside pool hall. And he's owned it for approximately 35 years. Well, his wife needed surgery and Leon took a loan against the business in order to pay for her surgery. And unfortunately, the bills continued to stack up and he was unable to make the payments. So he sold it to this scumbag, Nikki.
Oh, that Nikki.
Nikki, yes. And who kind of seems to be like a hustler. But Leon still had some bills to pay. So he stayed on to do odd jobs for less than minimum wage. And Nikki and his friends were not nice to him at all. Well, Nikki had a girlfriend named Donna, and she's a real lady, you know. Anyway, she noticed that there was this gold pool cue up, like kind of up high up on the wall. And so she asks Leon, what is that? And he said, oh, that stick belongs to the best pool player I've ever known, Jack Lesko. And he used to play pool around 1970 to 1975. And she's like, oh, okay, whatever. They continue on. They continue to show how mean Nikki is to Leon. Well, all of a sudden, this stranger walks in. And Leon looks at him and he's like, that man looks familiar, but I can't quite put my finger on who he is. So the stranger comes up to Nikki and said, hey, would you like to play some pool? And Nikki's like, yeah, sure, old guy, I'll do it. And so the stranger goes to break the balls.
Yes.
I don't know what it's called. Anyway, he doesn't get any in. Well, then it's Nikki's turn and he knocks them all in. So the stranger asks for a rematch and Nikki cleans the table again. Is that that might not be a term.
He racks the table? Is he racking the balls and
nope, he wins. He like knocks all the balls. Like he goes through all of his turns and not even all of his turns. Just every time he goes to hit the pool balls, he hits him in. So he gets him in every single time. And they keep playing and playing, and Nikki just keeps kicking butt. So they had been playing for money, and now Nikki has won $2,000 in approximately 2 years.
Dang.
And this is in like 85, 90, somewhere around there. So the stranger looks at him and he said, all right, how about one more match? And the guy said, well, I've already gotten $2,000 from you. What else can you give me? And he's like, let's play for $50,000.
Good Lord.
And
in the 80s?
Yeah. And Nikki is like, are you hustling me? What? I don't have $50,000 on me. And so the stranger said, well, you have this beautiful pool hall. Why don't you put that on the line? And so Donna is like, oh, Nikki, you have to do it. We can get out of here. Just think about all the great life that we can lead after this.
Is that how the actor sounded?
Nope.
Oh.
Anyway, Donna talks Nikki into it, and he decides to play the stranger. The stranger said, I need to change out my pool cue. And he goes and he gets the gold one off the wall. So Nikki racks up all the balls, and the stranger goes to break. And as he breaks, he gets the 9 ball in on the break, which I guess means it's a win.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
I know you lose if you get the 8 ball in.
Yeah.
Break.
So he got the 9 ball in, so he automatically wins. And so the stranger went up to Leon and he said, I want you to give the pool hall back to Leon. He's the rightful owner of this place. And he's like, I'm not going to do that. You can't ask me to do that. And he said, you just lost this bet fair and square. That's what you have to do. And so the stranger walks out. And Donna said, who was that guy? And Leon said, I can't believe it. I haven't seen him in 15 years. Nikki's like, there's no way it's him. There's no way it's him. And he said, yeah, that was Jack Lesko. And Donna was like, why is it such a big deal that he's the one who beat you? Why can't you believe it? And Then Leon said, well, because Jack Lesko lost his eyesight 15 years ago and he hasn't played pool since.
Dang.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, Nikki.
No, now I went Wisconsin. Oh, Nikki. Okay. Story number 3 takes place in the small town of Beaufort, Alabama, where Tommy Stewart was a well-loved individual in the town, and he aspired to be a law enforcement, somehow in law enforcement. He got a college degree from a small local college, and he would spend 1 or 2 hours a day in the police station just trying to get extra experience, along with all these extra odd jobs that he had. And Sheriff Driscoll really liked the kid, and he said that, it's impossible not to like Tommy. Well, Tommy came into the police station one day and he was super excited, and he said, I just got accepted into the FBI Academy.
Oh, yay.
And all he needed was some money for living expenses and travel expenses. So Sheriff Driscoll helped get him a job at the cotton mill as a courier. And the cotton mill entrusted Tommy with bringing the monthly payments to where they had to pay. And it was about $10,000 each month. So one day, Tommy disappeared with the money, and he never showed up at the FBI Academy. He was never found, even after a full, thorough investigation. And there was no news about any of this for about 5 years. And about 5 years later, an FBI agent showed up and told Sheriff Driscoll that he was there to investigate some counterfeiters. The FBI agent's name was Delaney. And Sheriff Driscoll noticed that Delaney was about the same age that Tommy would have been, and actually looked a little bit familiar to Tommy. Well, the sheriff approached him and said, hey, I'm sorry I keep looking at you, but you just remind me of a kid. Are you from this part of town or this part of these parts? And Delaney said, yeah, I used to live here about 5 years ago.
I used to live here about 5 years ago.
Yes, I lived here about 5 years ago. And Delaney said, okay, do you know Tommy Stewart? He was a kid. He actually was accepted to the FBI Academy around that time. Do you remember him? And Delaney said, yeah, I think I might remember him. He was a really nice kid. Well, as time goes on, Sheriff Driscoll notices that Delaney doesn't do much investigation. And he was overheard calling the FBI and trying to get transferred out of Beaufort. And then one day, the dispatch got a phone call that somebody had discovered a body at the bog. And so the sheriff asked Delaney to come with him to investigate because he said he was short on staff. Well, when they go to investigate the body was discovered to be Tommy. And his body was preserved because of peat moss somehow.
Yeah.
Really? That happens?
Yeah, it's actually a big thing, like over in Great Britain. Yeah, bodies can be preserved in bogs over there.
Interesting. Okay. So all of a sudden, Agent Delaney pulls a gun and points it at Sheriff Driscoll and says, "You set me up." And the sheriff confronts the agent and said, "You killed Tommy." And the agent immediately admits, "Well, I really needed the money and Tommy wouldn't just give it to me and he fought back." And so while the agent is pointing the gun at the sheriff, he's backing into the bog and he suddenly went under the water. The sheriff said there was no splashing, there was no struggle, and it was as if someone pulled him in.
Ooh.
The next day, the FBI agent's body was pulled from the bog, and deep in his forehead was a gash that looked identical to the gash that was found on Tommy's forehead on his body.
Oh.
Oh.
So he joined the FBI in Tommy's place?
I don't know. I guess they both were accepted. They take a lot of people from Beaufort, Alabama into that. That's their big recruitment town. Okay. Story number 4. So there were these 2 kids. One of them is named Bo. The other one remains unnamed. Not kids, but probably late teens, early 20s, who took jobs being grave diggers in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Let me try that again. Just Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Their boss, who was the groundskeeper for 20 years, was named Pete Ringwald. And he was the meanest man I ever knew. He didn't care about anyone. He was a drunk and he was just cruel. So when these 2 guys would dig the grave sites for the coffins and they would attempt to lower the coffins in, oftentimes Pete would come over and scream at them for not moving fast enough and just kick the coffin into the grave. Well, as this was happening, the 2 guys all of a sudden heard this song. I'm not going to sing it. Lucky you, I don't remember it. It has something to do with "You're mean to everybody, take heed, you're a big meanie, you don't even care about the dead." And they looked at Pete and they're like, "Do you hear that music?" And he said, "No, I have no idea what you're talking about." Well, then they all turned and they see this elderly woman dressed in all black. And she's standing there and she's singing this song. And she said, "Do you like my song, Pete? It's about you." And right. So then he turns around to look at the 2 guys who had taken off running. Later that evening, Pete is in his trailer, which is located in the cemetery, and he has continued to drink. And all of a sudden he hears this song again. And he opens the door and sees the old woman dressed in black standing at his door, singing the song to him, once again, warning him pretty much to stop being so mean. The next day, he's in a worse mood than he's ever been in. And the 2 guys are digging a grave and he's yelling at them, "You're not moving fast enough. You need to," and then he hears the song. But this time the song sounds like it's coming from the coffin. So he goes to the two guys and he said, listen, when you bury that coffin, I want you to bury it deep and put rocks on top of it. I want you to make it so heavy that it crushes the entire coffin.
Jeez.
And they said, no, we're not going to do that. That's not kind. That's not very holy. And we're not going to do that. And he screams at them. And then he's like, if you're not going to do it, I'll do it myself. So then he chases them off. So then he takes the shovel or pick or whatever they were using to dig with. And he begins to hit the coffin because the song has been continuing and he's freaking out and he hits the coffin. It splinters open and the old lady's face is there singing to him the same song. He freaks out, falls backward into the grave. Somebody shovels one shovelful of dirt on him and he is found later dead of fright. Sounds so familiar. Yeah, so the medical examiner said it looks like he was scared to death. Okay, and number 5.
I have an interjection.
Yes.
Run the table. When you clear out all the balls in pool, you run the table. It just came to me. And then also 97 to 2002, the show was on.
Okay, I said, what,
I think you said that. I think you said 97 to...
Oh, did I?
I think you did, yes.
See, I do know what I'm talking about sometimes.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Okay. Story number 5. There is an attorney named M. Anthony Brinkman. He is one of the top lawyers in town. And one day he calls in this woman named Florence Tyler. And he begins to question her about her relationship with George Randolph Parker. And George. So initially, Florence said she had no idea who George was. And Mr. I think it's Brinkman or Brinkerman. So I'm going to call him Brink. So Brink said, I have a very particular client and I need to know the details of why you were at this funeral in this cemetery on this date. And she said, oh, I wasn't there on purpose. And I didn't know the deceased. I just happened to be there. And so he pushes her further because it's a strange story. So she begins to explain that she is a high school art teacher. And that particular cemetery had an exquisite art collection. And she said she had gone to the cemetery to do some research. And she was there for approximately 2 hours checking out the sculptures. And on the way to her car, she noticed this chapel. And the chapel had Old English architecture, which she had been teaching her students in school. And she said it was so beautiful, she just had to see the inside. It was almost like she was pulled in. So when she went inside, she felt like she was supposed to be there. And she was noticing all of the architecture and the art that was in there. And she said it was very beautiful. It was quiet and it was serene. And as she's looking around, she notices that there is an open casket up at the front of the church. And she realized she was the only other individual there. So she felt she should pay her respects. And she walks up to the front to pay her respects to this individual in the open casket. The pastor comes up to her, or priest, I'm not really sure, and said, let's begin. Go ahead and sit. And she listened to him and she sat down because she noticed looking around that there was no one else there. And so he does the full ceremony, or is it service? The service. Funeral service. Yeah. So, and afterward, she says a short prayer. And as she's walking out, she's asked to sign the guest registry, which she does because, again, she felt bad for this person. And she thought, well, maybe he was homeless. and didn't have anybody who realized that he passed, or he didn't have any living loved ones, and that's why she had stayed. So she explains all of this to the lawyer, and he just kind of smiles and he said, well, Ms. Tyler, this gentleman was not homeless, and he was not well liked. In fact, he was hated by his family, and he had absolutely no friends. And his last will and testament, he had mentioned that his estate was to be divided to all who attended his funeral. And she was the only person who attended his funeral, and his net worth was $34 million. And that is the last of my...
Oops.
That was the last of my situations.
That was a loud sniff. I hope that didn't carry over. Okay, can you recap yours? And I'll give you my guesses.
Okay, so number one is the honeymooners, and where the guy jumps on the motorcycle. And
I want to say that's true.
Yes, that is true. It happened in the Midwest in the 1960s.
Go Midwest.
Yes. Okay, number two was the Southside Pool Hall. It was Jack Lesko and Leon and Nikki and Donna.
I want to say that one's true too.
That one is not true.
Really? I wanted it
to
be true so bad.
I did too. I was like, that one is so true. I know it.
Dang it. Oh, I wanted it to be so true. Okay.
Okay. Did I do two? That was oh, wait.
Did you skip one?
Oh, no, that was not true.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. The third one was Tommy Stewart, the FBI agent.
I think that one's false.
That one is false. Okay. Number 4 is the Marine gravedigger boss and the old lady who sings a song to him about how
no, false.
That one's true.
Shut up. How do they know that the guy heard her singing? He was there by himself.
She was in the coffin.
I know, but who the guy died of fright. So how did anyone know?
The other 2 gravediggers had heard this song sung, and they hadn't seen her. Right. But once they saw her, they ran off. The first time they saw her and they ran off. That happened on the Southwest coast in the late 80s.
Huh.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Final story is the rich, mean guy who left his estate to
I think
Florence
that one's
Tyler.
true. Or actually, I really hope that one's true.
It is true. It happened post World War II.
Really?
Yeah.
Good for that girl.
I know. Surely it wasn't $34 million post World War II.
Very well could have been.
Woo. Goodness. I'm going to start hitting up people.
If you look at the church and no one else is there. Well, everybody, I hope you liked our fact or fiction stories. And
it was fun.
It was fun. I hope you guys guessed right or wrong.
Whatever.
As long as you had fun. As long as you had fun. I don't know what accent was just coming out, but
this is the episodes of what accents.
But thank you to everybody for listening. Feel free to reach out to us with any situations you have, or get us in touch with any people you know that have situations going on.
Also, just we are going to announce the winner of the book later today. So you have a few more hours, or maybe should we announce it tomorrow since we said it's through April 12th? We'll do tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, we'll announce the winner of the 2 autographed copies of Gravity Drive written by Dr. Ryan McNamara. Also,
really good book.
You guys are amazing with the amount of downloads and Facebook shares and checking out Jamie's All My Kidneys page. Her episode has gone all over the place, and hopefully that will help get somebody possibly interested in being a donor for her. So thank you guys so much for that. It's really amazing. Mm-hmm. We have a call out for all things paranormal. In May, there's Paranormal Day.
And it's also, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you up.
Okay.
I was going to say Nurses Week.
Well, I'm not going to let that drop. Are you kidding me?
No, we have a great story for Nurses Week, a great situation. It's so good.
Yes, but we also want to hear some of yours. And
yes,
we might need to stretch it. And I mean, come on, you guys. I've worked with a lot of you. So, and I know some of these situations. I might have to share a couple of my own too, if I can remember some of them. Anyway, so paranormal situations and nursing situations would be awesome. Please rate us, review us, subscribe.
Check out our website.
Check out our website. Jessica finally has her bio up there.
I'll get a photo one day.
And we have our guests are doing well with getting their bios up there.
Mm-hmm. So if you want to check out any of their stuff.
And our episodes are on there if you ever want to listen to them on that platform for some reason. And please share.
Yeah. Thanks,
share us with your friends or your enemies if you don't like us, and share us with your enemies.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Right. Bye. If you'd like to reach out to us or submit your situation, please contact us at anothersituationpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Instagram at Another Situation Podcast. We're also on Facebook at Another Situation.
Another Situation is produced and edited by Point 5 Pinoy. Music is written and performed by Tim Crow.